My daughter begged me for a pair of $100 jeans last month, but she didn't just suddenly develop a deep passion for high end jeans. She wanted them because Jen has a pair and Sammy has a pair, and she felt that familiar ache of being left out. I recognized that feeling instantly because I do the exact same thing when I Venmo $30 for a friend lunch I can't afford. I usually don't even enjoy the salad, but I pay the price anyway, just so nobody forgets to invite me the next time. Rejection sensitivity dysphoria makes our ADHD brains treat social exclusion like a physical threat, and there is actual research backing this up. Studies that show people who feel socially rejected spend more on things that signal belonging rather than practical items, which means we aren't actually bad with money. We're just trying to stay safe within the group. By the end of this podcast, you will understand exactly why your brain reaches for your wallet when rejection feels possible. And I'm going to give you the tools to interrupt that pattern before the swipe happens. Welcome to The Distracted Dollar, the podcast where we talk about money through the lens of ADHD, real life, and real struggles. I'm Vanessa, your ADHD money coach, and we're here to move from chaos to control. RSD is not just about being overly sensitive because it's actually your nervous system treating perceived rejection the same way it treats a broken bone or a burn. The same brain regions that light up when you stub your toe also activate during social exclusion, and functional MRI studies have confirmed this a physical reality rather than a metaphor. Your body does not stop at just registering the threat. So it releases opioids to numb the emotional shock state. These are the same chemicals that dull physical pain, and they often leave you feeling numb right before you decide to act. A researcher named Baumeister ran a series of studies on this topic, and his finding explains why our spending goes sideways in social situations. After participants received rejection cues in a lab setting, they were willing to pay more than the retail price for status items like Rolex watches or diamond earrings. The part that really matters is these same rejected participants did not overspend on refrigerators or wooden tables. Practical items did not get the markup because they didn't help the person fit in. The only thing that matters that broadcasted something about who they were or who they wanted to be seen as, had extra cash thrown at them. Another study from that same team had rejected participants shopping in a mock store using their own money. They bought wristbands with their college logo on them at a much higher rates than anyone else in the study. They didn't grab snacks or notebooks or bath gel, but instead they bought the one item that visibly connected them to a group. Their spending was not impulsive in a sloppy way, but it was actually a strategic move. Their brains identified the fastest route back to belonging and took it using money as the vehicle to get there. ADHD amplifies every part of this equation because most of us have accumulated years of emotional scar tissue. We have been told we are too much, too loud, or too forgetful our entire lives. A 2025 study on neurodivergent experiences found that participants described the sensitivity as a learned response to repeated trauma rather than an inherent defect. Our brains have gathered decades of evidence that fitting in always costs something. Spending became a survival strategy instead of a budgeting failure, and that disconnection changes how everything about how we fix it. This is not a character flaw, but a nervous system pattern that we absolutely can unlearn. The three main places that trigger us: number one, coworker outings hit first and the hardest because your professional belonging feels tied to actual survival, and your brain links that lunch invite to your income, your reputation, and your ability to keep a roof over your head. Saying no to the team lunch doesn't feel like saving $15, but instead feels like you're announcing you're not really part of the group. When the next round of layoffs or promotions come around, you worry you've already marked yourself as separate. I'd have Venmoed $40 for a group dinner that I didn't want to attend at a restaurant I didn't pick while eating food that I didn't even enjoy. I did it because of the fear of being left out of future invites was screaming louder than any budget I had ever written down. The $40 wasn't for pasta, it wasn't for the drinks, it was for the receipt that proved I showed up. Mom groups create a different kind of pressure that is often quieter but much more expensive. The right stroller becomes a membership card, and the matching family outfits signal that you belong in this particular tribe of mothers who have it all together. Nobody says it out loud, but the unspoken rule hums underneath every playground conversation. If your kid wears the wrong thing or your gear looks different, you're not just underdressed, you're an outsider. Church communities layer on something even heavier because now it's not just a social belonging at stake, it's your moral standing. If I don't give enough in the offering plate or dress the way these families dress, the question twists deeper into my identity. Am I a bad person too? I'm not just an outsider in that scenario, but I'm spiritually deficit and judged on two fronts at once. I remember standing in a Disney World gift shop staring at matching family t shirts that would cost me almost $200 for the shirts we would wear exactly once. I almost bought them because some part of me believed that strangers at a theme park might look at my family and decide we don't fit in there. Strangers at Disney World. That's the absurdity of it and also the honesty of it. The common thread across every one of these situations is perception. We're really responsible to actual rejection, like someone saying, I can't make it either, or no worries, catch you next time. Instead, we're preemptively spending to avoid the possibility that hasn't happened and might never happen. Each trigger follows the same invisible sequence where a social situation arises. Your brain flags potential exclusion as dangerous, and spending presents itself as the fastest available route back to safety. The money leaves your account before you've consciously decided anything because your nervous system made the call while your prefrontal cortex was still loading. That's not a weakness. That's a nervous system that learned somewhere along the way that acceptance has a price tag and rejection hurts worse than death. The three tools we can use to overcome this. The first tool is simple and it almost feels like cheating, but it works because it exploits the brief window between your amygdala screaming danger and your hand reaching for the wallet. When someone asks you to split a bill or join an outing, your automatic becomes, let me check my calendar and get back to you. That's it. There's no commitment and no rejection, just a 10-second delay that gives your prefrontal cortex time to boot up and ask whether this purchase is buying safety or actually buying something you want. I started asking myself to check my calendar first before saying yes to anything that costs money. No lost friends, no dropped invitations, because the people who actually care about you understand that life is busy. They don't need an instant yes to feel secure in the relationship. The second tool is an opted out text saved in your phone notes, which is ready to paste the moment your anxiety spikes. You can say something like, I'm setting this one out to protect my budget, but please keep inviting me. I want to be there the next time. The second half of that sentence matters more than the first because you're not rejecting them. You're asking them not to reject you while you make a different financial choice. And most people will respect that request because you delivered it with clarity instead of guilt. And the third tool is designating one spend day a month for every non essential purchase, including the ones that feel essential because belonging is on the line. When the urge to buy something matching shirts or Venmo for a group dinner hits, write it down and wait. On your designated day, pull out your list and ask yourself if you want this thing or if you just want what the thing represents. Most items won't survive the waiting period because the social pressure already dissolved by then. The group dinner happened and nobody noticed you weren't there. Or if they did, the world didn't end. The real need underneath the spending, which is connection and safety and being known, isn't solved by a purchase anyway. Real belonging doesn't come from matching what other people own, but instead it comes from being known for who you really are. You deserve to be accepted with your disorganized calendar, your forgotten replies, and those big emotional reactions that make you feel like too much. When I finally stopped trying to buy my way into social groups, I discovered something that felt uncomfortable and freeing at the same time. I realized some people only liked my willingness to split a massive check, and those people vanished the moment I started saying no. Other people stayed by my side, and those relationships actually deepened because they weren't being propped up by constant spending. The people worth your time will still invite you to grab a coffee, even when you turn down an expensive dinner. They will still text you to hang out when you skip the pricey coworker or friend lunch. And the relief actually testing those friendships instead of just fearing the worst is worth every awkward pause phrase you'll ever have to say. The scar tissue from years of rejection needs active healing, and you can't just throw more money at it to cover it up. You want people to like you for more than your stuff. But the only way to find out if they do is to stop using your bank account as the entry fee. The discomfort of saying no is temporary and usually fades by the next morning, while the debt from saying yes to everything compounds with interest and follows you for years. You're not broken for wanting to belong. Your spending was just a creative solution to the real problem. But now you have better tools. RSD is still going to show up because it's a nervous system response rather than a shopping list. And knowing that distinction is the whole game. Your homework for this week is simple. So I want you to save that opt out text in your phone today and use your pause phrase at least once. Every time you choose real connection over consumption, you rewrite the story your brain has been telling you since you first felt different. The goal isn't to have perfect spending habits, but to make sure your spending reflects who you actually are instead of who you're afraid of not being. For more financial tips, join my newsletter. Link is in the show notes. Until next time, from chaos to control.